live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Got a lot to get into today. I feel like today is going to be very chaotic for the two previews that we have in line, especially this North Carolina one that we're going to get to.
Yeah, I really have no idea what you want me to come in here and say about North Carolina. I really don't, because we have been doing some deep dives on a lot of teams, and we're kind of coming to the end of these, right? Yep. We'll do two tonight. Obviously, we'll talk about Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders announcing that he is cancer-free, which congratulations to him. Joe, I have no earthly idea what you want me to come in here and say about North Carolina. I might just give it to you because I mean, listen. They went and got 6 seniors along their offensive line from the transfer portal. They went and got 9 offensive linemen from the portal. Okay? Like
nuts.
It's nuts. But here's something else. Hit on some of those offensive linemen, because here's the truth. 3 of them are going to hit. You get that many people from the portal, 33% are going to hit. I mean, I don't know. Then you bring in Steve Belichick, who transformed the Washington secondary, the number 1 secondary in the country last year in passing yards allowed. But they're bringing in 7 DBs from the portal. So again, look, it's so funny as Rhett Lashley today walks back his comments on the SEC and its schedule. How do you have any idea what the University of North Carolina is going to be?
Well, so this is what I mean by saying it's going to be really chaotic. And I think that this preview is going to be probably the most unique one, because I don't think we're going to be following the same structure that we've done. I literally don't think it's possible to follow the same structure. It's going to be more of a projection, talking about how much do we trust Bill Belichick? What do we think that they can accomplish? The other thing when we do these, Blake, is you usually have team information to go off of. You have film from the last year to go off of. There's a lot of resources right now where we are, as August is right around the corner, for you to pull what we can kind of get a feel for what the team is going to be this upcoming year. Go look at their depth chart. I always like using our lads to reference like who are the new guys coming in, and they highlight in yellow who are the transfers. The whole damn roster is yellow. The whole starting lineup is yellow. So we can't even really sit here and talk about like, well, these guys are going to be really good. There are so many moving pieces, and there's not enough time, I think, for the page to be turned. I still think that year 2 is going to be the big year for Belichick. But the craziest part about all of this is they have the second easiest schedule in the ACC in terms of
Joe, they're losing
winning percentage.
They're losing 9 offensive linemen at minimum. So you talk about year 2, we'll see. Coach T912 says, how do you guys truly feel about the ACC? I'm sure he's being a little sarcastic there. I think you have one team that can win a national title in Clemson, and I think you have no idea what else you should expect from anybody else.
I think you got a sense to what to expect from Miami for the most part. Like we kind of talked about.
I don't. What if that elbow does not hold up from Beck? I mean, no, you don't.
It's fair.
I mean, Joe, you got 6 new pieces in your DB room. No, you don't. I mean, listen, I think you can know what you're probably going to get from a Xavier Lucas, but they still got 4 other starters in their secondary who, quite honestly, were in the portal for a reason. Guys are in the portal for a reason. So whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, maybe you hit on good ones. There's no way that you can walk back the explosive plays. And here's another truth. Name a significant game Mario Cristobal has won.
Okay, we brought that up, and that's fair. The only thing that I'd push back on, why I at least feel confident that Miami is going to be one of the top teams in the conference this year, one of the few teams that's bringing back as much offensive line talent and experience as they are. There is a small handful of teams in the country that can boast what they have coming back and in their running back room. So at the very least, I think every team's got roster turnover questions. If I had to pick 2 teams to your question, if I had to pick 2 ACC teams, I would pick Miami. I agree with you about the rest. The rest is who the hell knows? Just guess.
Joe, does Steve Angeli and Syracuse win one more game than what they did a season ago and go 10-2?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not far-fetched.
No.
I mean, hot take. I don't know how much better Kyle McCord is than what we've seen from Steve Angeli.
Yeah, and Jelly's got talent. And the other team that I throw out there, which I think we're going to probably get to this week, as you mentioned, we're closing down the deep dives and moving on to like full conference previews. Georgia Tech might have some teeth. They might be able to do some stuff with Haynes King coming back.
Yeah, the only thing with Georgia Tech, by the way, I tried to start a season on College Football 26 with Georgia Tech. It's so difficult.
Why?
Just they don't have really – I mean, the best wide receivers now at Auburn. You know what I mean?
That is true.
Their playbook is just so difficult unless you're just going to run zone read the entire time, which is exactly what they did up and down the field. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. Joe, to start off with, let's get to this. Coach Deion Sanders held a press conference today where he informed everybody that some of the rumors were true. No, not the ones from fake, stupid media accounts who said he was retiring and stepping down. But Coach Prime announced today that he did, in fact, have bladder cancer. A tumor was in his bladder, and they were successful in the removal. The oncologist who was over Deion's case was a part of the press conference, and Joey says he's coming back. I don't know what else to say other than I'm just so glad that this is good news instead of bad news about Coach Prime. But your thoughts really quickly on the health of Coach Prime and him going back to Colorado.
Yeah, well, one, really lame that there were people that were pushing misinformation. I think that, like, and I'm sure that you're in the situation too, like, we're all in enough group chats where stuff gets passed around, but if there's no way to actually source that information, it does not give you permission to run it. Very reckless by those that were trying to push this, that he was retiring, when it was the complete opposite, that it was successful, that he's cured right now. My thing that I tweeted with this, Blake, is just as a lover of college football and selfishly, I'm really glad that he's fine and that he's not stepping down. It has made college football really fun to follow from a very unique, different angle. I started my very first step into covering college football was covering FCS football. And when he took over that Jackson State program, I followed it very closely. We covered all the time on my podcast with my co-host, Sean Anderson. And it was really intriguing to track the progress with that team and the way that he really boasts and uplifts the teams that he's been around and what he's doing right now with Colorado. I'm glad that he's going to be a part of the college football landscape this year. So I'm glad that he's healthy. It's amazing news to hear that. I'm glad that it's the opposite of what the fake news that was being pushed out there. And it's just good to hear overall that college football is not going to be losing him this upcoming season.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, listen, they had to remove his entire bladder from the way that I understand it.
Yeah, I think so.
The thing for me, and Deion made fun of and poked light into, they asked him about what was it like staring death in the face, and he was like, I was staring life in the face. There was a video that surfaced and that said that for the first time he, his doctors and attorneys and people that were close to him told him he needed to make a will. Like, I mean, when he was going through this, I don't think that I think it was worse than maybe he let on. During the spring, he said he stepped away during the offseason. Well, Joe, I got to be real with you. The fact that this was as quiet as it was is pretty shocking. Like, there were no Pete Thamel reports. There were no Brett McMurphy reports of him having cancer or anything like that. And he is a massive public figure. So to, number one, keep it internal as much as he did, to not put the focus on the team like that of what, the headlines every day, what's going to happen if Deion doesn't return, and I think it shows maturity by Deion and the growth by his staff from some other things that we've seen in reference to, look, he's kind of learning on some of this, but in reference to mainly the fact of, like, Coach, go get healthy. I mean, Joe, I have children, and one day I'm assuming that you will as well. And I'm going to tell you, when it's got to be the worst feeling in the world to say, hey, go get a will because you're dying. Have I done everything possible to make sure that my children are set up? Hey, my son just started the NFL this year. Both of my sons just started the NFL this year. Am I going to be here for the first time that they take the field at Cleveland? If he makes a team, God forbid he starts. I mean, like, this is much more serious than what everybody wants to talk about. And he made some light of it, and good on him for being in high spirits. But you're right. Deion's a massive public figure. It's a big deal. He's turned Colorado around from what they were. And the good news is that they caught it. You know, Joe, in situations like this, as I would say about my grandfather when he passed, God rest his soul, Joe, cancer doesn't spread lightly, right? Like it can be very quick moving. So God blessed Deion in this being caught early. And listen, here's the truth. God bless that medical staff and the lead medical trainer who said, hey, I think this needs to be tested. A primary care doctor says you need to go see a urologist now, and we need to go take care of this. I mean, Joe, this was a random checkup from what I understand. So listen, this is fantastic news. Regardless if you like Deion, hate Deion, no one wants to see bad news coming out of this.
Right.
The season means nothing. Colorado's seasons means nothing. And if something bad would have happened here, I'm just glad that he's healthy and we're able to see Coach Prime on the sidelines yet again.
Yeah, that's just the biggest takeaway, that like we can feel a million ways about this, and just the relief of just knowing that he is going to be fine. You don't have to like, we just lost one of the most prominent figures in the sport, I think, of like with Mike Leach, in a completely different way of his prominence and his impact.
And Joe, that happened Joe, that happened within a 3-hour window, if you remember.
Yeah.
A 3-hour window. Like, had a heart attack, the helicopter, because the weather couldn't get to him quick enough, and he was gone, bro. Like, this is not a joke.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
Yeah.
Your health is not a joke.
My whole point with that is it's a relief that for once we get the positive on this and everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And you're right about that. Like, me personally, having dealt with that with older family members that have had their own scares, he's right. And he made the statement saying, like, go get checked. Sankey even also tweeted about this. He even echoed the after Deion made those statements, was like, go get checked, go to the doctor. That's the main takeaway, I think, for everyone.
Well, and again, we took it so serious because it was the first time that we had heard that this was the thing. Deion was making light of it. You know, he's like, I will never pee the same. He talks about, I'm depending on the depend. You know, I mean, he was making light of it. And listen, nobody lifts you up more than, I mean, it's what a coach does, man. It's lifting you up when there's a tragic situation going on. But listen, man, glad that they caught this. Joe, it's definitely still something to monitor. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that we need to take place here. Hopefully it's fatigue. Look, when you go through something like that, fatigue's going to be a big deal. So hopefully he's able to stay up and have a lot of energy. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. All right. Let's get to it here. Joe, everybody, before we get to our show, we'll talk about Colorado and do a deep dive on them, UNC as well. But we're going to start off tonight in reference to our biggest storylines going into camp. Congratulations, good sir. We are officially a month away here from football starting. Football does start literally 30 days from today in week 1 on that Thursday night, on August the 28th. Joe, we're going to start off with our biggest camp storylines here. But before we do that, everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. By the way, just throwing this out there randomly. It has no significance whatsoever. Did you see a massive shift today on FanDuel? Baylor now is the favorite to beat Auburn week 1. 1.5, minus 1.5.
Really?
Yes, really? Massive change. What is going on at Auburn is something that, you know, these storylines continue. It's going to be very interesting. All right, Joe, as we go in a month away from, by the way, the start of the season. Camp starts this week. Your boy will be out there on a Wednesday to see his first football of the fall. It's going to be really fun. But, Joe, as everybody continues and starts football camp, mainly for everybody this week, what are some of the bigger storylines that you're watching going into camp this fall?
The first thing that I always really focus on and lock into during fall camp is which young guys are going to emerge as impactful players. And I think there's two buckets that we talk about with this, Blake, is the true freshmen stepping in that can end up being phenoms, maybe not to the extreme degree of what Jeremiah Smith did this past year, but who can be a Ryan Williams type guy, who can be a Cam Coleman type guy. The guys that are on my radar right now, we talked a lot about how – what, say that again?
Jeremiah Smith, sorry.
Well, I was just saying that the guys for this upcoming year that are on my radar are DeCorian Moore for Oregon. We've talked quite a bit about him, and they need him to play well after they lost Evan Stewart to injury. Justice Terry, maybe he's as good as Colin Simmons was in his first year at defensive tackle. Dejon Lee from Alabama is somebody who's been already making waves. And then Will Black might need to step in and be important for Notre Dame's offensive line with what they just suffered with Charles Jagasaw. But the other bucket that I look at is some of these red shirt guys that haven't played yet or maybe played a little bit. What are they going to do? And I'm talking about two that come to mind immediately. CJ Carr for Notre Dame, if he ends up being Notre Dame's starter, and Julian Sain for Ohio State. Who is going to cut through the noise and really, really prove themselves as maybe some of the best freshmen in the country?
Yeah, I think that that's a big deal. And listen, the easy grab here, and I'm going to do this in just a second, the easy grab is the quarterback position. Joe, Ohio State being one of them, I think we all think it's going to be Sain. What's going to go on at Notre Dame? Okay, listen, a lot of these programs that made significant runs in the playoff a year ago, what did they all have in common? They had at least somebody that was a second-year starter plus. You think of Riley Leonard. Well, he started before last season. You think of Howard. I mean, he was a multi-year starter. You think of Drew Allar, who was in his second year of starting. You think of all of these different quarterbacks who had multi-year starters. Well, the thing now is when you turn the page to next year, it comes to a part where what are some of these young quarterbacks, Texas with Quinn Ewers, what are some of these quarterbacks and young quarterbacks going to do? I put all of them in the bucket because I think as much as you look at the conferences and you look at different teams, Joe, I think the biggest storyline in all of this is I do think that the quarterback play a season ago across the board was down. The problem in that is, Joe, you had, 6 quarterbacks drafted at the NFL draft literally the year before in 2023. Quarterback play was going to be down because you had 7 first-round picks. J.J. McCarthy was the last pick that went off the board to the Vikings there. So you get, or Michael Penix, whatever it was, you get to a place where you had so many quarterbacks a year ago in 23 that when you went into 24, you had a lot of people that were coming back. The SEC's got a lot of returning starters. But I sit here at Ohio State and Notre Dame. I sit here with other teams such as Oregon, Joe, Alabama. These aren't small name schools of what we're going to get. You have brand new quarterbacks, but I bring it down to 2. Joe, I do think that the Notre Dame quarterback battle is one of the more intriguing ones to me with CJ Carr. I think it's the underlying rule that I think he's going to start. Why would you? There's got to be some form of process that they would have gone and gotten another guy from the portal, a team that's been very active in the portal, if they did not truly believe that he was the dude. There's no way you, at least at some point, that you can't convince me, and then Angeli leaves. But not only that, I think it's 3 main schools that were deep playoff teams a year ago. It's got to be Ohio State. It's got to be Notre Dame. And, Joe, it's got to be Arch Manning in Texas. Those are the 3 biggest storylines for me coming into the season. Everything else will be everything else. If you don't get good quarterback play, it doesn't really matter. But it's the thing here that all 3 of those quarterbacks, whether it be Carr, whether it be Manning, or whether it be Sain, Joe, they were all insanely talented. And so the point of all of this is I'm putting all 3 of those, and you could put Dante Moore in there, I guess, if you want, but he did play some at UCLA. Those 3 are the biggest storylines in the country for me from a national perspective because, Joe, if those guys are who we think that they can be, well, then they're going to be playoff teams again, regardless of what we think.
Right. The reset at quarterback, I think, is always something that like really, really catches my attention. And there's a lot that's going to look different this year. The runs that we had for some of these teams in the playoff. And then I think the way that you framed that, where 2 years ago we put out such a deep group of guys that went in the first round, and then it was an overall pretty deep quarterback class. This upcoming year, I did an interview today with Eric Galco of the East West Shrine Bowl. He handles the roster for that, and he leads that on the A to Z Film Room channel. And he stated that he thought that this year was one of the deepest that he's seen at quarterback, because there's just so many different options. A lot of guys that started last year, a lot of guys that were highly recruited at one point. There's just so much talent. And it's not just the seniors. It's not just the rising juniors. There are some players who we've already mentioned here that are going to be redshirt freshmen or sophomores that had a little bit of talent, but now get the chance to start for a full season. So, yeah, right. I really want to hear is like, do we get a glimpse of somebody's like popping off? I think back to when Drake May ended up being as good as he was. I remember starting to read a little bit of like, hey, keep an eye on this guy. This guy might end up being phenomenal during fall camp. And then he bursts onto the scene and has an amazing sophomore season. So you never know who could end up being a name. There's always a chance that somebody totally random ends up being fantastic. So yeah, I'm always keeping my eye out for that. But Joe Burrow is a fantastic example of that.
I mean, literally. I mean, yeah. So when we talk about there's no bigger storyline outside of quarterbacks. So again, we'll see. But for me, just to wrap that up, Joe, if Notre Dame's a back-to-back playoff team, okay, even an expanded playoff, none of that matters. Joe, CJ Carr's got to hit. I mean, like you got to have good play from him. You play too many tough opponents this year and teams that Joe, A&M going into year two under Elko. I mean, they're not a slouch of a team. Like, you can't just roll over and let them rub your belly. Pause. But for real, I mean, like, they have done some really good things, so we'll see. For me, Joe, the biggest storyline for me is everybody looking at Georgia and not giving them the benefit of the doubt. Meaning, what are they going to look like on defense with all the replacements that they have to have? They've recruited at a very high level. Gunnar Stockton comes in at quarterback, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day of what another first-year starter looks like. Joe, it's so crazy to me that we look at Georgia last year and everybody said they had a down year. The number one strength of schedule last year, they had 2 losses. Okay, sounds good. They lost 2 games the last 2 years before that combined. They only had 1, by the way. They've lost 3 games in 3 years. They are replacing a lot of pieces defensively. Kirby brought up at SEC Media Days, listen, we're very young on defense. There are going to be some early tests in this season. Now, in week 3, they play Tennessee, and let's see how that goes. Joe, I'm very intrigued by the University of Georgia right now because we expect them to do good and be good, but they are replacing a lot. And I think that they will be based off the way that they recruited. But I got to be real with you. I don't think people are talking about them enough. I really don't. We look at them and say, hey, Gunnar Stockton, we don't know what to believe with him. Is Mike Bobo any good? Brother, you do realize of the guys that will play in the front 7, 6 of them are top 50 recruits. 4 of them are 5 stars.
Yeah.
Like, you're not rebuilding, you're reloading. So I get what some of the things Texas has done to them in recruiting recently here in the very near recent past. But, Joe, they got a lot of talent. And I think for me, it's like every time people talk about the SEC, it's, Lenore Sellers, there's a lot of buy-in in Alabama. Garrett Nussmeier might win a Heisman. Arch Manning's going to win the conference in year 1. Is A&M really going to be that physical? I don't hear anything about Georgia.
Well, and it does make you wonder in a situation where we're not hyping them up as much or other people aren't hyping them up as much, and they're kind of just assuming they're in the pack of the top teams but not separating themselves like they usually do. Does that mean it sets them up for big success? You know, does that mean
Mhm.
that they're going to be using that as motivation? I smirked when you brought this up because I couldn't help but think, well, we've been hyping him up. We did our preview and we talked about how we think that this Georgia
But
team
we're
has
different. We're different.
well, exactly. They have the structure, they have the team, they've got the recruited bodies to come out swinging. And I do think at times, I know that there's been some like key veteran leadership on those teams where they won national titles, but they also did have some tremendous young, high 4-star, 5-star guys that completely dominated. Like Jalen Carter, he started to get his first look at time on the field and he started smoking dudes, just like was unbelievable and impossible to block. So there's always, with the amount of talent they consistently bring in and how effectively they evaluate, there's always somebody big coming up next. And it kind of goes in line with my initial storyline of, you know, who are the guys that we're not thinking of that are freshmen and redshirt freshmen that could end up being superstars in college football and then in the NFL for that
Well,
team.
I think the big thing is because of how bad they looked offensively a year ago, and then Gunnar Stockton in his first start going up against it. I don't think Gunnar Stockton gets any benefit of the doubt. None. He's gotten none this offseason from anybody. Like, he had to go out there and damn near be perfect for anybody to give him a shot here. I mean, it's not fair to him that he's going up against a national title contender at the end of the year and that's his first start. It's not fair to anybody. I mean, what did you expect from him? Now, Jelly went in there and did some really good things when he was called upon, but Gunnar Stockton led them to beating Texas in the SEC championship game. It's not as if that he was a slouch here. So, listen, we'll see with Georgia, but it's my biggest storyline from hey, man, they won the conference. I feel like everybody's writing them off. I guess we'll see. Joe, let's get to you want to get to Lagway or you want to hold off?
No, let's get to Lagway. Let's talk about him. I think that he's the other clear storyline that we have to talk about because the boom or bust potential of this Florida team completely rests on the shoulders of Lagway's availability.
In case you missed it today, there was a report that came out, and forgive me for not, I know the guy's first name is Zach, for whoever reported it, which confirmed to be true. But DJ Lagway was seen in a walking boot, Joe, in reference to a mid to lower grade calf strain. This comes off of the spring of Lagway missing due to a shoulder injury, and some people around SEC media days hearing things such as there have been struggles with him trying to push the ball down the field this summer. Joe, another instance of DJ Lagway being hurt. Now that camp starts, there were a lot of high hopes going in for Florida. I say high hopes, but higher hopes for what they've been. Your thoughts on now DJ Lagway hurt again and that being the massive storyline of maybe the offseason so far?
So I think the one thing that's also really problematic about this is apparently the calf injury was sustained during just simply a team run. So probably we're doing conditioning after a lift and calf started bothering him, or there was I've had this happen to me where I was running with the team and had a pop, which isn't fun. Nothing, you don't tear anything, but like when you get a pull, it's really uncomfortable. It's going to probably not be something that I would assume that completely keeps him off the field during all of fall camp. But there's two things that we have to acknowledge here. One, it really sucks for this offense taking a huge leap forward that we've been projecting that he might miss some time at the beginning of practices. The very beginning of practice is the most important period because you're learning new wrinkles in the offense. And it's also when everybody's the most healthy. That is the healthiest that everyone is going to be during the entire season is the first week of camp. So you're missing out on that growth potential. If he is missing maybe the first week, maybe it's longer than that. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with this. The other part that I hate to say this, that makes me feel uncomfortable, and I'm saying uncomfortable because I love DJ Lagway as a player, and I'm really excited for what he can be.
Injury prone.
But I'm starting to, I don't want to throw that on him, man. I really don't. I don't want to declare him as injury prone. Him being injury prone would suck for college football and for his prospects of being an NFL draft pick. He is so gifted, and are we just going to do this every offseason? Something pops up?
Did you see the Netflix documentary series Quarterback?
I caught glimpses of it, yeah.
Okay. Detroit was going into a game against Minnesota. In the game before, Jared Goff had rolled his ankle pretty significantly. They show in the clip, and I know that this is a different injury, but stay with me, where his mom and dad go to him and his wife's house after every game in Detroit. Jared Goff has his leg put up, elevated, and had just gotten home at 1 a.m. after seeking 3 hours worth of treatment. Joe, he couldn't walk. He could not walk. I bring that up, and I bring up these situations where, guys, once you get in the season, you have no idea what these dudes are dealing with. I can't show you on my hand right here. Joe, I had a broken knuckle, played with it. I mean, do you understand? Before we get to the injury-prone situation, now my camera's out of focus.
Yeah, I was about to say you knocked it off.
But, okay, there are a lot of injuries that go on throughout the season. A lot. I don't think a calf strain is in a mild calf strain at that. Now, it could lead to Achilles tears and other things that could happen. It's a calf strain. I saw Will Campbell in a boot week 3 last season with my own eyes, walking away from LSU's football facility with my own eyes. He didn't give up a pressure for 7 weeks. He had a mild calf strain. So I think that they're a little bit overreacting here to some. I saw some people in the SEC today go live and says, he's injury prone. This is awful. It's the worst case scenario for Florida. No, it's not. The worst case scenario was he's running and he tore up his knee. God, knock on wood, God forbid, don't want that happening to him. Joe, I get what you're saying. It's a calf strain. It's a calf strain. School is starting back at the University of Florida. Starts next week or 2 weeks from now, whatever it is. There are kids on campus that saw DJ Lagway in a boot, and this got out. Sorry, that's just how it happens around college campuses. Literally, it's how it happens every time. Hey, I saw so-and-so on a scooter today. I will show you 20 DMs from last season or 2 seasons ago. Blake, Jaden Daniels was on a scooter going into Bama week. And I'm like, if you think that he's literally not playing in the game, you're a dumbass. Okay, like he's going. I don't want to overreact to things that we've seen before. Could it be worse? Could things be worse? Could situations get worse? Yes. He had the shoulder problem. But, Joe, this is the 3rd injury that we have on him because you got to remember he pulled his hamstring during the season. So you have the hamstring, you have the shoulder, and now you have the calf. The question becomes, if he does get hurt again during the season, God forbid he misses a game, then I think you got to go there. As of right now, I don't want to overreact to a kid being in a walking boot.
Yeah, that's my whole point with this is that I don't want to make that jump, but it's kind of hard not to at least lay that out. I don't think that he is. I think it's just been some really bad luck. There's plenty of here's the real truth with Lagway though. And knock on wood, because again, I'm wishing great health for him. The stuff that he suffered has all been pretty mild to a degree. We're not talking about a guy that's had like a torn ACL in a blown rotator cuff or something like that.
Well,
what is we're talking about? That's
the shoulder could be significant.
Yes, but we don't know. But I feel like if it was significant, there would have been a lot more reporting on this, and it would have been pretty clear if it was significant. So as much as I think we can overreact to it, and others have been overreacting to it, these are all on the degree of just like normal things football players deal with during off-season training, during the football season, anything. Like it's all recoverable. I'm hoping that he's going to be fine, but we're not talking about a player when we typically do the whole injury-prone discussion that has gone through like multiple serious knee injuries, multiple serious hamstring injuries. Like I think we do need to kind of take a breath, like you're saying, and be patient with this and see how he does. But I think it is a storyline to monitor. How much time does he miss? How does it affect the offense? Does the offense start a little bit slow?
Joe, what if he's out there Wednesday?
That's my whole point with this. It's the whole point with this.
He's going to be limited, and he's going to be out there Wednesday and doing some level of activity. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll see. Again, I get what you're saying. Now, there was a lot of chatter coming out of SEC media days after this happened that there were talks through the grapevine that during the offseason when he did work out, that he couldn't push the ball down the field like he used to. Like he was still trying to get strength back in that shoulder. Again, we'll see. It is the biggest storyline in the SEC right now because he is that talented. I mean, Joe, goodness gracious. Now, we'll see. We'll see. But think about this. They play, I think, South Florida, Florida Gulf Coast in week 1 or some crazy shit like that. And then they got to go on the road to LSU.
Florida Gulf Coast. They don't have a football program.
Well, whoever in the hell it is. I mean, Gulf Coast U, Rudy Poo Tech. I don't know who it is. I mean, seriously. Look up and see who it is week 1.
They have LIU, South Florida.
Well, what is LIU? The Sharks, right?
The Long Island University, right down the road.
And why in the hell are you a Shark in Long Island?
It doesn't make any sense. This was a whole FCS story because they moved up. They combined 2 Long Island schools to make LIU.
Oh, good
and
Lord.
Then they picked the Sharks for something. I don't know. They're dog shit at football. That's all that matters. They might actually be the worst college football team at the Division I level. That might be 150 to 0. But they get South Florida, and then they got to get ready for LSU in week 3. So, they can't deal with any slow movements. They need to be hitting the ground running. Those first 2 games need to go without any hitches, which they won't, and then they need to be ready to go for LSU.
Don't say that about South Florida. I mean, they gave Bama everything that they could want and more. Don't say that. South Florida could get tricky.
Fine.
Well, if it's Harrison Bailey and it's not DJ Lagway, what if DJ Lagway's back in week 3 and he's got to go into Death Valley on a team that I know for a fact wants revenge on your ass?
So that's where it kind of gets problematic. But I feel like
I think he's going to be
extreme.
Fine. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine. By the way, very quickly, you buying in this Bama hype? Have you seen this? Dude, their media is bullish that they're winning the SEC.
I don't think that we should declare. I don't like it when local media. I don't like it when local media does that. It's fine for us to sit here and to declare we think this team wins the conference. We think that team wins this conference. But when the local media starts doing it, I think that is a bit. You're jumping to conclusions without. They don't know what the rest of the conference looks like.
They don't know what Ty Simpson looks like right now. Sorry. He's thrown 45 passes in college football. He could have an emergence like Mac Jones. He could be Rudy Poo for all we know.
Yeah, he could be Kyle McCord. We don't know.
We don't know. All right. Joe, continuing on our quest in these deep dives, tonight we go to the great state of North Carolina, maybe a situation where we're talking about SEC North Carolina here. But nevertheless, North Carolina preview. Obviously, they brought in Bill Belichick, the biggest move in the offseason, bringing probably and arguably the greatest coach of all time in the NFL to their program. They went out and got some key pieces like Gio Lopez from South Alabama. They did bring in six senior offensive linemen from the transfer portal. They bring in Steve Belichick, who led the number 2 passing yards allowed secondary in the country a year ago at Washington. Joe, when you look at the University of North Carolina and you look at their season upcoming with Bill Belichick, how in the world do you make of this 2025 season?
I've been shocked by some people trying to be bullish about this North Carolina team. I think that there's one driving force to believe that this team has some success, and I'm going to define what that success means in a second, but they have the second easiest schedule in terms of opponent win percentage in the ACC. So they have a huge advantage there. As soon as Bill Belichick took the job, we looked through their schedule. They are not facing any challenges really outside of Clemson and Syracuse. They got the whole back end of the ACC. So they're, just to put this out there, there's a chance that you can kind of get a little bit of an Indiana situation here. The positive obviously comes from the fact that you are hiring the greatest coach in the NFL. Brilliant coach. He is going to find ways to get talent out of guys that we don't know anything about. But that's the problem, Blake. I don't know anything about this roster. Nothing. I don't know a damn thing. I know Gio Lopez was good at South Alabama. I know that Thaddeus Dixon was good at Washington. I know that Amari Campbell's gone. I know that Bo Atkinson's gone. I know that Zach Rice is gone. I know that the whole roster is all transfer add-ins. And what's the same thing that we've talked about every single time? Whenever there's a bunch of guys that are coming from the portal as the main lineup for the starting units on both sides of the ball, it's going to lead to problems at some point during the year. I am going to, and I just kind of alluded to this, I am not going to try and compare Indiana to what North Carolina can do this year, because the key difference that we're missing before anyone starts to project that and say that, and like maybe he can tap into it. We saw Curt Cignetti take his roster at JMU, a bunch of guys that he coached at JMU, and bring them to Indiana. This is one of the most unique things that we're ever going to see a coach do. I'm tired of people trying to create the next Indiana when it has been insanely unique. Bill stepping in with a bunch of kids that he just met with a weird offseason where everybody's talking about the 24-year-old that he's banging. Like,
he's 28, right?
She's 24.
Oh, Jesus.
24.
Okay.
She's younger than me. I'm just saying that there's a lot going on here. I think that we need to be prepared for this to just be a 6-win season, and that would be fantastic if that's what they accomplish.
Joe, I have no idea what to make of them. I saw Gio Lopez last year up close and personal. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, South Alabama did some very unique things. I think he's a very unique player, deceptively strong for a little guy. I mean, listen, I say a little guy, but I mean, he's not big in stature, but I mean, he runs the football effectively. He does a lot of really good things effectively. Is it going to be him or Max Johnson? And I don't think that you're going to get an answer from Bill Belichick on it. We're on to Cincinnati. I really don't. So who's going to be the starting quarterback for them? How do they move? Joe, I have no idea what their offensive line is going to look like. They can say that they know, they don't know. You brought in 7 seniors from the portal. 7 on the offensive line. Joe, your returning wide receiver from a year ago didn't catch a touchdown last year. I just don't know offensively if you have any idea. None. I mean, one of, if not to some people, the best running back in the country, which I don't agree with, but one of the best running backs, especially in the ACC, does not return. Joe, do you have any clue what they're going to look like offensively? Because I don't. I do have an idea of what I think they'll look like defensively in the secondary based off of Steve being in college football a year ago. I do and would say I actually am a little bit bullish of them defensively, even with all of the transfers that they have, because, Joe, I literally saw a dude go into Washington and flip it from the 120s in a secondary to number 2 overall. So offensively, I just don't know what to make of them. They do have a lighter schedule, but, Joe, there's so many moving pieces on both sides of the ball that I just kind of put my hands up and say, man, we'll see. I don't know.
I think that, like, the uncertainty creates like a very wide range of outcomes in most cases, but I have to give Belichick credit that I don't think he's the type of coach for them to just go out there and be like a 3-win team. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think that he's brought all of his guys in. He brought his son. They're going to get something out of this squad.
I agree.
I think that we're kind of just generally used to seeing a big name coach like this step in and have an impact, but and also the everyone's going to expect them to win 9 games, especially with the schedule as easy as it is. But when you have to travel all the way to Cal, that could be a loss. Having to face off with Fran Brown at Syracuse could be a difficult game. Traveling to UCF, I don't even think that they're going to win week 1. I think that Josh Hoover and TCU is going to throw all over them. Josh Hoover's a great freaking player. I was blown away by his film when I broke him down for the 2026 class. He's a really underrated player.
Does Hoover have any idea what he's going to see from North Carolina defensively and what Belichick will throw at him, though?
He probably won't, But
I mean, because you have no idea what they're going to do with Bill. None. It's like Patricia with Ohio State. What does Manning expect? I don't know, Joe.
But it's very different than that, because the different point about this is that in a late game situation, you're asking a bunch of guys that have never communicated with one another before to be able to rely on one another.
Fair. Okay, very good point. Very fair. But the problem in that is Steve Belichick literally had the same exact situation a year ago, and it worked.
Well, but he still had guys coming back. And I just think that there's just so much more turnover than that Washington situation. I don't disagree, though, because he went and grabbed one of his best guys in Dixon to come with him from Washington. Good coaches are going to get something out of the team. I don't know if this is a ragtag group of random dudes and they duct taped a roster together, or is this an unheralded unit of guys that we don't know anything about that went unrecognized and they just stole a bunch of gems. This is why this preview is so hard, is because I have no idea what I'm latching onto. I can latch onto something.
I agree.
Most teams, I can't do that with North Carolina.
Well, let me just throw this your way, okay? And I don't want to overreact here in a lot of regards. However, when we look at Bill as a whole, okay, and people asking how they've been or how he's been, I look at the 2026 recruiting class, by the way, Joe, they might finish in the top 20, inside the top 20. As crazy as that sounds, Joe, they currently, right now are at 20th on 3. They have 30-plus kids that they have verbally committed. Bill has recruited his ass off. Give him credit. You're going to have to give him time, though. And I think that that's the biggest thing for me. They got a lot of top 300 kids, Joe, in their upcoming recruiting class. I think they're having to free agency this thing, put a big patch on it, see what happens, and go from there. But as we look at their schedule, Joe, I know you say it's easy, but I got to be real with you. I could see 4 or 5 losses on the schedule, though.
Well, right. So to read through it, they open at home against TCU. They go to Charlotte, which is really funny. They get Richmond at home, to UCF, bye week, Clemson at home, bye week, which is awful timing of bye weeks, at Cal versus UVA, at Syracuse versus Stanford, at Wake Forest versus Duke, at NC State. I don't think that
really early bye weeks.
Yeah, it's stupid. But the ones I think are automatic losses: Duke, Syracuse, TCU, and Clemson. And I think UCF is easy for us to kind of make that case for them to win that game.
I'm not going in on TCU. I'm not doing that, because anything can happen.
You got to watch this Hoover kid, man.
Yeah, sounds good. I also don't think that any kid on planet Earth knows what Bill can throw at his ass either. I mean, they could easily win, but I just got to be real. I'm not marking that up. Bill, last time that we saw an NFL guy in week 1 go up against TCU, Sonny Dykes and them, when they had no idea what was going on, got their shit kicked in by Colorado. So I ain't doing that.
Yeah, but that was, I think that roster and the state of that roster for TCU was so much worse.
G4 quarterback, FCS quarterback coming in. You had no idea what's going to happen.
Hoover's going to lay dong all over this UNC team. I'm telling, I am big Hoover fan. I'm not going to let you talk.
Does
talk
Hoover
bad
have his number 1 receiver?
No,
Didn't Jack
two
Bash
guys.
Didn't Jack
Besh
Bash
and Savion Williams, Savion Williams both went to the league. They're going to be fine.
Give me North Carolina versus
No.
TCU.
I can't wait to do that preview if you're going to be talking all that.
Give me Bill Belichick. Let's go. All right. In all seriousness, Clemson, no. Syracuse, no. A Friday night on Halloween and a team that you're playing wears orange? Hell no.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to break anything down. Joe, Duke, you brought up Duke. What does Mensa look like? And what does Duke look like? I mean, let's give Manny Diaz a little bit of credit here. Bro, defensively, they weren't bad at all last year.
They got some dudes, too. I don't think that's going to be – I would take Duke 10 times out of 10. I'm not taking North Carolina in that situation. That team is going to be really underrated.
Yeah, we'll see. But to your point, they do miss some of the bigger boys in the ACC. So let's see what happens with with Bill Belichick and company. Speaking of Deion and speaking of them, Joe, our last one here is the University of Colorado. As we continue on our deep dives here, as we mentioned earlier in the show, we're very happy to hear that Coach Prime is going to be back on the sidelines. Glad that now he is cancer-free. But now we are looking at Coach Prime and the team that he has put on and he's going to put on the field in this 2025 season. You know what's funny? A lot of people forgot about this. Have you looked at Coach Prime's staff lately, by the way? Do you remember our conversations with him? Warren Sapp, Marshall Faulk is the running backs coach. Just throwing that out there because I think a lot of people forgot what Deion actually did in the offseason with some of these staff hires. But, Joe, now going into the 2025 season, the Heisman Trophy winner is now in the NFL. Kaidon Sanders is no longer there. Your thoughts on what the Colorado Buffs are going to look like in 2025?
There's an obvious glaring question that starts this conversation of is how do things look without Kaidon Sanders at quarterback, without Travis Hunter? They did lose some other guys that were key pieces to the NFL and to the transfer portal, but those two players commanded a lot of attention from opponents, from the media for a lot of good reasons. They were tremendous, tremendous players. Replacing them will have to be the biggest talking point that we have. But if I were to latch onto, Blake, the way that I kind of framed this preview, there's four guys that I think are going to be driving forces for success if they end up having a 9 or so win season. It starts with Kaidon Salter, who I think provides a very new, unique wrinkle to this offense because he's such a great athlete. And I think that he is going to help expand the running game that really has struggled over the last 2 years. I look at DeLeone Miller, who is a really talented receiver who has shown us in spurts what he could become. And I think that now as that room is kind of cleared out, he gets a chance to shine alongside of Marion Miller as well. Both those guys I would kind of lump together. Does Jaheim Otis step up to the plate? And I think that he will. I was very excited about him going into last season, but we didn't really get much of him last year. I think he's going to dominate because guys this talented typically don't end up in the Big 12. And then lastly, I think that if Jordan Seaton can improve and continue to get better going from a freshman to a sophomore, that jump from freshman to sophomore is always interesting for an offensive lineman, and he anchors that O-line. I really think that there's a chance that their protection overall ends up being better. I think if a lot of those things go to – oh, and there's one guy I forgot to include. It's 5 guys. DJ McKinney at corner is a potential first-round pick at corner. Very talented. If those guys play to their potential, they will be on the all-conference team. Some of them might be All-Americans. There is some very underrated talent that I think deserves recognition, why I am choosing to bring attention to it right now.
They got to run the football.
I knew that was coming.
Bottom line, okay? Like, I don't want to make any bones about this. I don't think there should be any bones that are made about this. They have got to run the football. Bottom line, in that, we're in a situation here with Colorado and them offensively where I think what they did was bigger than what people are giving them credit for. They went out and got a couple of guards along their offensive line like Xavier Hill, who I think is a better playmaker than what maybe some would expect. The dude can play. The kid can play. He's a really good guard. Joe, I think that they're going to be better along their offensive line. I think it's the best offensive line that they've had, and they need to establish the run game. You have Marshall Faulk there for a reason. You have to establish the run game. Let Salter, or if it even is Juju Lewis, or whoever it is, you got to establish the run game if you're going to knock off some of these teams and be at the end of this contention, because at the end of the season, you have Arizona State and you have Kansas State. And that could mean everything for you down the stretch. They do have some very talented pieces. I'm going to throw out a hot statement. I think this is the best overall team that they've had top to bottom.
Yeah.
That's tough to say when you had a quarterback like Shedeur and the Heisman Trophy winner. But the problem is, as a collective unit up front, they are much better, and that's what separates them. And it's what's going to separate them if they can run the football. I like your thought in this in reference to you talking about there being a situation where Salter brings another very unique wrinkle, and he does because of his athleticism. I think they're going to look a lot different in a lot of ways, but even talking about more than anything, I think it's the offensive line upgrades that has definitely helped them here.
I just really think in what you just said is why I have just general optimism, not putting a projection on a win total right this second as we're talking through this. My general optimism is I think that the team is the most balanced it's been under Deion Sanders. I think that everyone can, in a way, bellyache over the way that he's approached recruiting and the transfer portal. But at the end of the day, they have a lot more depth, I think, at spots where we wouldn't really expect. And it also, like, Jaheim Otis was a really good example of bringing in the right guy in order to anchor your defensive line. The one thing I will say, if there are some things that hold them back, as you said, and this goes on Pat Shurmur. Can Pat Shurmur, and I'm a Giants fan, I watched that man make so many mistakes as a play caller. Can he do a better job of building out and orchestrating this run game in a way that they can lean on it? And I think that they need to be able to lean on it at times if they want to have more steady success this upcoming year. And the other part, they had really good linebacker play last year. Really good linebacker play. Nikhil Hill-Green was great, and he transferred to Alabama. I need to see what they look like at linebacker this upcoming year, and if they can replicate that success. Because, again, we forget last year, they had a very underrated run defense. They had one of the best run defenses in the Big 12 last season. Nobody would have expected that. And a big reason why was because their backers were just really, really good at tracking guys down. So those two things are if something holds them back and they drop a game that they're not supposed to, and they're hovering closer to 8 wins or less, it's going to be because those things end up being liabilities. But I'm holding out hope that that doesn't end up being the case.
Defensively, you brought up Jaheim Otis, and quite honestly, a lot of SEC teams wanted him. A&M, LSU, Florida, all went after him. He's one player, but defensively, Joe, again, in these bigger games that they played a season ago, what happened? What happened? They got pushed around a little bit. I mean, when you say that, everybody's like, oh, no, Colorado did great. Brother, no, you didn't. In these bigger games, you got pushed around. Can Jaheim Otis, can French, can Hughes, can those guys in the front seven solidify them defensively? You talked about having a first-round potential corner out there as well. Joe, we'll see defensively. I think it all revolves around – I think they will be better, but I think a lot of the things could remain the same too. We'll see about Colorado. Listen, when I look at them, I do worry about replacing a first-round Heisman Trophy winning corner and saying to myself, how much is that reattainable? Do you get better when you lose that level of talent? We'll see. I mean, but it's just – I mean, look, man, when you lose a Heisman Trophy winner, it's a big deal.
Yeah. I think that what kind of comes in with this, Blake, is that the balance of the roster, I think, ends up becoming a strength. I think sometimes when you have a guy that's that talented he played both sides of the ball. When you have a guy that's that talented, I remember when I was playing, and we had a guy on my team that got drafted who was a receiver, and like we would always kind of think to ourselves, in a situation that we need a big play, oh, Zay's got us. He's just going to come up with the big play. I think that when you don't have that player on your roster. And I'm not trying to paint that Travis Hunter was holding him back, but I think that if they're practicing as effectively as we know that they are because they've got a good coaching staff, that they understand that everyone has to be accountable. You can't just lean on Travis Hunter late in the game to get a big play on offense. You can't just lean on him to force a turnover. Everyone has to play cohesively together. And I think that maybe that identity shift is where this team starts to transform more. And it's not just Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. It is going to be the Colorado football team. And I think that's ultimately going to help them reach their goal of consistent success.
It better because, again, the things that have plagued you, and let's look at their schedule too, but the things that have plagued you have not been things with skill players on the outside. But Joe, their schedule this year, your thoughts on it and the teams that they play.
Yeah, so they start with Georgia Tech. Gonna be a tough game. We're gonna do Georgia Tech really soon. They take on Delaware. They go to Houston versus Wyoming versus BYU at TCU versus Iowa State bye week at Utah versus Arizona at West Virginia bye week versus Arizona State at Kansas State. The tough draws that they have ultimately are having to go to Utah, having to face Arizona State, and having to travel to Kansas State. But I think that the rest of the schedule, especially with the matchups that they get at home, they're all winnable. These are all teams, especially a good vast majority of them, that they should be significantly better than. Houston has lost like their whole secondary. They should beat Houston. I think that they can beat Iowa State. I think Iowa State's passing attack is not going to be as good as it was last year. They lost 2 guys. They got drafted on day 2 this past year. Arizona's going to stink, and I think that West Virginia is going to be in a little bit of a reset mode in first year under Rich Rod. 3 tough games, man, is 9-3 again is accomplishable if they can come out swinging.
Joe, Georgia Tech's not a pushover, but you have them at home.
Right. What does altitude do for guys from Georgia?
Well, Georgia,
I don't know.
Georgia actually is very mountainous in the northern part of the state.
Is Atlanta?
No, it's very hilly, but not Atlanta. I mean, they're not at altitude, but you're right. I get what you're saying. Joe, the thing is what is Iowa State? What is Utah? Going into Utah, by the way, what is Arizona State, who we're high on, and who is Kansas State? Joe, there is 4 losses here, and those are tough games for them. Look, man, I want to say the ceiling is you being 9-3 and potentially being in the Big 12 championship game. But, Joe, the Big 12's goofy as hell, and all of these teams I have questions on, massive questions. I don't think Utah's going to suck as bad as they did last year. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. You going into that place at night is not fun. So you got Arizona State and arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Sam Leavitt. We'll see, man. This is going to be tough. I think that they sit more around 8-4, 9-3 than anything.
I think that there's a chance that here's the big key here. They can go toe-to-toe with the top teams in the conference, I think, with some of the talent that we've established here. But I agree with you. I lean closer to 9-3. I think that, again, I've said this a million times over, with how bad this team was before Deion got there, it is a multi-year process to getting to that 10-2 mark on a consistent basis.
We'll see, man. I mean, it's a very interesting situation, and I'm going to stick around 8-4, 9-3, and see what happens.
Yeah, totally reasonable.
We'll see y'all again on Wednesday. Until then, y'all have a fantastic night. Peace.